Thank you, Congressman Ellison. It's great to have a full room to talk about these important issues. What I'm going to try to do is just briefly talk about a few different aspects of my work and the issues that we deal with at Defense for Children International Palestine. And then we have about an 8-minute, 9-minute clip from a new video that focuses on Palestinian children, child testimonies, former Palestinian children that have been arrested and detained in the Israeli military detention. Unfortunately, we couldn't have a Palestinian child travel, numerous obstacles, so that did not happen, but we have videos so that we can still include the voice of these children here today for you all. So first, Defense for Children International Palestine is a local Palestinian human rights organization that focuses specifically on children's rights. We've been providing legal aid to Palestinian kids in the Israeli military court system and the Palestinian Authority courts since about 1991. Part of that is representation. The other part is documentation of violations that happen, whether it's physical violence, denial of access to counsel, conducting prison visits for prison conditions. We meet with these kids, take affidavits, and so everything that I talk about today is based on these firsthand accounts from children themselves, from families that experienced the detention. So this is what I'll be drawing on. Israel is the only nation in the world that automatically and systematically prosecutes children in military courts. This is something that needs to be recognized. Israeli military courts lack basic due process and fundamental fair trial rights, and children are arrested and prosecuted in this system automatically and systematically. Israeli military law applies in the occupied West Bank. It applies to any person in the territory, but in practice it's only applied to the Palestinian population. If you're an Israeli settler, an Israeli citizen living in the West Bank, you have the benefit of Israeli civilian law applied to you. So inherent in the legal framework that these kids find themselves in is really the basic definition of discrimination. Around 500 to 700 Palestinian children are arrested each year and prosecuted in the military courts. This number doesn't capture children that are detained for shorter periods, questioned, interrogated in a military base, and then released, and not charged formally in the military court. That number is somewhere between 300 and 400 additional kids each year. A key point about the Israeli military system is that there are no warrants. There's no oversight over arrest. Israeli soldiers, under Israeli military law, have authority to arrest anybody that they suspect has violated the Israeli military law. And there's a specific military order that is the order regarding security provisions, includes a specific offense for throwing objects, throwing stones. A soldier doesn't have to be 100% sure, 20% sure, 5% sure. If they suspect that Tara, another Palestinian child, is somebody that has violated that, based on 2% sureness, that's enough to justify an arrest in the military court, or military law system. So where do these arrests take place? What we see, based on documentation and legal representation of families throughout the West Bank and East Jerusalem, is that the communities that are impacted and targeted, where youth are targeted for arrest, are communities located near settlements, near military bases, near roads used by Israeli soldiers and settlers. Wherever the occupation has its presence in the form of settlers and soldiers, these are the communities that are affected most by youth detention. And before we get to the video, the last point I want to raise is that often when we do work internationally, in the UN, here in the US, there's this idea that this is a juvenile justice system, a military court system, and for some reason these abuses, this violence, and these rights denials exist because something's broken. That's really not the case, right? The military court system is operating exactly as it's intended to. There are limited rights provided within that system, and those are the rights that kids have. You don't arrest kids in the middle of the night from their home, ill-treat and physically abuse 3 out of 4 of these kids if you're interested in justice. If you're interested in justice, you provide oversight over arrests, you provide warrants, you provide children with access to counsel during interrogation, you allow their family to be present during the interrogation. You don't have pretrial detention as the norm, right? Detention should be used as a last resort. So when you look at this system, and I encourage you all to dig deeper, to use the resources that both our organization has, the AFSC has, and listen to Tarek's experience, because we need to get past kind of the security narrative and dig down to see what the actual policies are, but more importantly, what the impact is on these children. Part of the impact, we talk a lot about the experience of children in detention, what that means, how that affects them psychologically, physically. What we don't often get the chance to talk about is the impact. What happens when they leave detention? So today, I'm excited to have Joe Stork from Human Rights Watch that will touch on that a bit. We see a correlation in our work. So children in the Northwest Bank, they get arrested, they get detained, they spend maybe 3-6 months in prison. When they come out, some of them drop out of school. The economic situation of their family is difficult. And what happens is they end up working in Israeli agricultural settlements in the Jordan Valley. So Human Rights Watch recently put out an excellent report on the use of child labor in the Israeli agricultural settlements. So Joe will speak a bit about that. So now let's turn to the video. We'll just play a few clips, and they'll focus on arrest and the interrogation phases.